ceremonies, the Honorable Sam Condor, ladies and gentlemen, St. Kitts and Nevis, it is for me a distinct pleasure to be here with my colleague, the Honorable Sam Condor, and to address you on matters impacting upon St. Kitts and Nevis. I believe that you have come today because you are interested, and many of you have always been interested in what is happening in St. Kitts and Nevis. And so, like Sam before me, I congratulate you and I thank you for coming out this evening. And I want to basically continue some areas where I think Sam, though comprehensive, perhaps had not addressed as fully as one could. Perhaps he was leaving a little thing for me to say. I don't want to give a lot of my history and background because I can't compete with his. Safe to say I'm a proud citizen of St. Kitts and Nevis, and that my mother is Kittishan and my father is Nevishan, and so for me it is difficult to support any disunity between St. Kitts and Nevis because I don't know which side I will choose. I love my father's land, Nevis, and I love St. Kitts. But all of us are here as proud citizens of our federation. And sometime I was advised that every citizen goes with a map of his or her country and his or her heart. And the heart never allows that person to forget the country of birth or the country of choice. For some of you, St. Kitts and Nevis is the country of birth, and for others, Canada, beautiful Canada, is a country of choice. And yes, I know that your heart will not allow you to forget either of these two places to which you have become attached. So we share that bond together, that we love our country. And for me, as a young man, I want to be able to say, as I was taught in my school days, of all the lands, whether they be in east or west, I love my land, St. Kitts and Nevis, the best. That is a commitment which I made and which I give to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. Whatever we do, and whatever may have been the challenges and the accomplishments of the past, what we have now for St. Kitts and Nevis is a future which starts now. The future we can desecrate, but the future we can consecrate and make better for the generations now and those who will come after. And so I am focused for the rest of my political career to ensure whatever I do, I take a stand as I stand now, a stand for my country which I love. That is the promise and that is the commitment which I make. I have been in the politics long in government by contemporary standards in the Caribbean. But I have been around it without recognizing it. My father was the Trades and Labor Union shop steward. He worked on the estate. And as he was getting older on in age, he will take me to the Heart and Hand Lodge in Tabernacle to make the notes. And there I learned the word grievance, because always coming to October when we were having the union conference, it was about taking notes of the grievances of the workers and the estate in particular. I learned to understand the complication of the work environment and that people are suffering and that there were injustices that needed to be corrected. And so yes, politics was all around me and I didn't even notice it until later when I was doing some of the things I saw my father doing, like going through the list, like saying, well, I am going to talk to Miss Prokop tomorrow, like saying I'm not sure what that person is, etc. I understand that is how you do your list management many years after, when I had to face the electorate and to make a determination. We have a country at this particular moment. However we may want to put it, the truth is St. Kitts and Nevis at this time is at a crossroads. It is a crossroads politically, and it is at a crossroad economically. It is a crossroads politically because Sam Condor made the point that at this moment in time we have what he described as an illegitimate government, a government without proper foundation in law, a government without proper foundation in the context of the Westminster model, which we know and which we practice. In our set of democracies, we believe in majority rule. The man or woman who gains the majority of votes in constituency number 7, at least the Bellevue from which I hail, should emerge as a parliamentary representative for that constituency. And the person who ends up with a majority of elected representatives would emerge as a prime minister for our federation. In the context of St. Kitts and Nevis now, we don't have that. We have what has been described as an elected majority, 6 of 11 members of parliament who stand in opposition, and a government with a minority of elected persons continuing to parade itself on the government space of St. Kitts and Nevis. And we say it is wrong. And we say it is wrong because our democracy provides for two things. Basically, the election of representatives on behalf of the people. And they should determine how the parliament functions and how the government itself is comprised. The Constitution also provides that by and large, wherever there is deadlock, wherever it is in fact believed that the government is off course and the government is acting in excessive ways, that there be a parliamentary threat to what we call the vote of no confidence. And so important is the vote of no confidence in every democracy practice on the Westminster model that only elected people can vote. So in the United Kingdom, you'll have to be a member of the House of Commons, not the House of Lords. People must have put you there for you to be able to cast your vote in that matter. St. Kitts and Nevis is no different. It is one of the only bit of legislation in which unelected persons cannot vote. You see, that particular provision was there to check government, to ensure that at least when government was going over the cliff, one could put that to the test and one could find a remedy. And by and large, we have seen votes of no confidence happen here in Canada. We have seen them happen in the Caribbean. We have seen them happen in the United Kingdom. And therefore we have an abundance of evidence about how one should treat with the serious matter of the vote of no confidence. And I ask you to check through history and try to help me and educate me if you could find one country in the Commonwealth, British Commonwealth, in which there has been a motion of a vote of no confidence in a government, and it lay in abeyance for over 100 days. You will not find it. You will not find it. But except you will find it now, in the context of our beloved country of St. Kitts and Nevis, a motion of no confidence could lay in abeyance for 158 days. St. Kitts must not be the pariah nation of this world. And St. Kitts must not allow itself to the power-crazed actions of Dr. Denzil Douglas to make us the laughing stock of the rest of the world. And that is why we say, right must be right. And on this one, Dr. Douglas is wrong. And those who advise him to continue to play hide and seek with our parliament, to reduce it to the laughing stock it has become, where when the bills are to be heard, suddenly our speaker is sick. I heard Dr. Douglas only 2 days ago in the press conferences. I would dare the speaker to bring this matter. How dare the Prime Minister dares a speaker who should be independent in terms of determining whether a motion should come before the House of Parliament. It is a challenging time for our country, and we are seeing a leader, however power-crazed he is, however overly ambitious he is concerned not to face the reality, but to hold on to the trappings of government forever. That is a sad position in which we have reached. There can't be any other explanation, because I go now to recent history with respect to motions of no confidence. And when our Prime Minister says, well, you see, this motion of no confidence is important, yes, but you see our Constitution, it doesn't tell me when to call this motion, so I can't do nothing about it. Whoever put them there, they better look after it. We have to understand that this is unacceptable behavior. And we have to send that message to our Prime Minister, that we as citizens and people who love our land and who want the best for it, we deserve better than he is offering us as the leader. I say, we must say that we are committed to ensure that whenever there is a need for an example, our leaders, wherever they are in politics, in our schools, in our churches, they look for the best examples to which they will lead St. Kitts and Nevis. Don't tell me that you will find Zimbabwe or you will find some country in Africa with the worst record of democracy to which you will compare my beloved St. Kitts and Nevis. We will not accept that as the example which we want to follow. So when our Prime Minister says, well, the Constitution doesn't say, certainly the Constitution doesn't say a lot of things. Constitution doesn't tell him that he must hold election on this particular day. He holds the election when he wants. But even if the Constitution didn't say, and the Constitution in fact says, in relation to this matter, in the absence of any specification, you go look to the Westminster model in the UK. And in the UK, this vote of no confidence would have been heard in December. That is how urgent they treat it, because they understand and they respect the tradition. There's a lot of things in the UK politics, it's all about tradition. There's no statute, but honorable men are expected to act honorably. And certainly the founders of our Constitution could not have contemplated that we would have had a rogue Prime Minister and leader as Dr. Denzil Douglas has emerged. It is a rogue leadership that we have. When a man who is leading us says, I will ignore every tradition, I will even go to England, bring a man down, pay him millions of dollars to ensure that this motion never reaches Parliament. We understand what we are dealing with. In Trinidad and Tobago, on the 8th of May this year, Keith Rowley filed a motion of no confidence. Come Monday, it is being heard. Dr. Denzil Douglas, do you know that? Do you appreciate the difference that Kamla Prasad, a lady Prime Minister on the challenge, is willing to put to the test her government in keeping with long-established traditions, and say, if it is the will of the parliamentarians, let their will be done. I will go and face the people. That is what the motion says. Because when the motion succeeds against him, he has 3 days to make up his mind. 3 days in which to resign gracefully or ungraciously, as is his nature. Or 90 days to say, I have the full confidence that whatever are the abnormalities now existing in this parliament, the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, once given a chance, will restore me to this parliament. And I say to the Prime Minister, it is 2 things. You either let the people's representative determine the fate expeditiously by tabling the motion of no confidence, or you let the people of St. Kitts and Nevis determine whether they want to continue the path in which you have led them for 18 years. It is clear. And we could go on. St. Martin on the 7th of May, a motion of no confidence filed against the government. And in 6 days, the motion being heard. Well, how come all these people from large countries and small countries understand how you deal with motions of no confidence? And a Prime Minister who has been in office for now 18 years doesn't understand it, or playing smart about it, and think this is a game of brinksmanship, that this is a game to see who could outsmart each other. When leaders in government and in politics make their profession one of outsmarting the ordinary people, it is time for them to go. Yes. It is time for them to go. And I submit, it is time for St. Kitts and Nevis to have a better leader than we now have. Mount Strat on the 14th June, motion filed against Ruben Meade. Within 12 days, they dealt with that matter. Indeed, at a CARICOM meeting in Haiti, Ruben Meade telling Douglas, by the only way you could deal with it is to hear it. The only way you could deal with it is to hear it. The problem left unsolved is still a problem to be resolved. And Dr. Douglas is there marking time. Well, Keith Mitchell could have told him, and certainly Tillman Thomas could have told him, on the 27th of April 2012, I too had a motion of no confidence, Dr. Douglas, and in 18 days, I dealt with it. I dealt with it. Tillman could have told him, but I faced 2, one from the opposition, one from my senior minister, and I dealt with it in 24 days. Dr. Douglas could have looked elsewhere. And Kamla Prasad would have said to him, well, Prime Minister, I don't understand why you're playing this googly game. Because on the 15th of February 2012, you know that madman in the opposition brought a motion of no confidence against me. And within 16 days, I put it to Parliament, and I am still alive. I am still the leader of Trinidad and Tobago. And if you had gone to UK, you would have learned that even Margaret Thatcher, in the height of her popularity as an Iron Lady, was faced with a motion of no confidence, and she had the balls that he doesn't have to bring it before Parliament. And in 1 week, Thatcher survived by 1 vote. By 1 vote, man. It must never be. And it becomes for me a matter of democracy at risk when our government put the citizens in a position where they have to take the government to court to enforce their rights. It must never be that way. A man must never have to take his last dollar to fight for justice when the culprit in this case is the Prime Minister of the land. I see the man fighting the vagabond who wants to take over a piece of his land. I see the man fighting a member of the family who wants the mother house and they didn't contribute anything. And now he gets his house and they're fighting him. He said, well, I will fight you down to the last dollar. But never must it be that our citizen has to take their last dollar to fight an insensitive government. It must never be. That then is when we begin to lose our democracy. Two things are important for us, apart from our service to God. It would be our service to country. And the context of our small country for me, two things loom large. The quality of our democracy. The freedoms about which some speak. And to them are attached issues of law and order. The independence of our judges. Our ability to get justice. Because justice is so critical that it's hard to define. It is justice that you know when it happens to you, even if you can't find a legal remedy, you know wrong is wrong instinctively because you have a God-given conscience. Certain things you just know. And you say, boy, I ain't have no money to go to the court. The legality of it we can't determine, but the justice of it is within us, man. Something is saying this is not right. Something must be saying to Dr. Denzel Douglas, what you're doing there is wrong. You're destroying the fabric of a country still young in its democracy. Only 1952 we begin to exercise it. Well, really, if it was a white colonial master, I could have understood. But it's when it's one of our own who is behaving that way, then you have to get a better appreciation why it is we have to end this tragedy that is happening in our country in the context of the leadership of Dr. Denzel Douglas. And I've done my research. I have the table here. Trinidad and Tobago, Cayman Islands, 5 days. Jamaica, Antigua, Bahamas, Barbados. Nobody taking so long to do what they must do in the interest of democracy. Democracy is an important thing. It must be given life. It must be given substance. And only we, the people of the country, can give it that life and that vitality by practicing it. And when we allow our leaders to take democracy and make it as if it was around the chin-chin bam, we must go. Then we understand we are creating a problem because it starts there. And when he dares to do that, he tells us he will do any other thing to remain in office. So don't be surprised when a High Court judge says that the electoral system in St. Kitts and Nevis is corrupt. Don't be surprised when a High Court frowned upon what was happening in Nevis up there. It is the same man who is the Prime Minister in charge of the electoral system. It is the same man who a High Court judge in 2009 said he found him to be a stranger to the truth. It is the same man who this year another High Court judge in the personality of John Benjamin, a Kittitian and Division practicing lawyer, now High Court judge and Queen Counsel said, when he had 3 ways to appoint Jason Hamilton as Senator and Attorney General, there were 3 correct ways in law. and the Prime Minister chose the wrong one. Understand? It is dangerous what is happening to us when a leader calculatedly, this is what the judge was saying, you know, calculatedly, mischievously chose the wrong way when there were three clear ways in the face of the law and the Constitution to do what you were going to do rightly. You chose to do it wrongly. How dare we could have confidence in that person leading our country. And so, the man is so callous, the man is so vulgar, the man is so criminal in his mental state that when you hear other things that are going to come, whether by boat or ship, whether by FedEx or otherwise from Dubai to St. Kitts and Nevis, you don't know what to believe. And I say you can't put anything across beyond the capacity of our leader to do, because he is not acting in accordance with the normal rules. Certain legal documents, I had a talk 2 days ago with a former speaker in Barbados and the motion. And he said, this thing your Prime Minister saying is nonsense. So the Constitution can't put down everything. Can't put down everything. But you have understandings about how things should work. And it is when people act dishonorably in accordance with traditions and practices and principles, that is where the problem comes. Nobody sitting down all those years could have expected that St. Kitts and Nevis would have turned out so bad because of one man. Nobody. And you have all of these practices, you know. You have the situation being dealt with by Little Mount Strat, by Antigua next door, by St. Martin 20 minutes away. So if you needed guidance, you didn't need to bring a silkman from England and pay him over £1 million to frustrate the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. You didn't have to do that. But for the Prime Minister, the money in the Treasury, not his, he told me once, when I was the Minister of Finance. And I was having a civil discourse with him about whether or not it made sense paying a double salary in 2009, when in September we had paid retroactively 10% from 2001 January. And he said, well, it's politics, we got to go on election and so on. I said, Prime Minister, I really ain't think no more politics to gain out of it. Because if you pay this backdrop in September, come December, I don't think reasonable people expect that you're going to find money, because we were going through the collapse of the financial system globally in 2008. And he said to me, Tim, I don't understand you, the money not yours. Which is true to a certain extent, but I as the Minister of Finance ought to be an appropriate guardian and to guard it even more vigilantly than if it was mine. Understand? Because all the cars new. Mash up a man's old car, you got to go give him something new. That was part of the learnings from the elder folks. He said, well, the money not yours. I don't want no money left back in the Treasury. In the odd event Pam come in, they got money to spend. He said, I prefer to spend the money out of the Treasury to ensure I get back in than to left the money in there and Pam get in to use it. And I said, well, what happens if you get back in? He said, well, if I get back in, I will deal with it. But if them jokers get in, then I won't got no money there. He told me, because we had the IMF people coming in, the IMF looking for many years, as Sam told you, go back online. I said, but PM, we're going to have the IMF to deal with. Because we knew the IMF kept saying to us, all right, Prime Minister, you say you ain't going to sign up, you have to come to us. The state of your country is such that you have to come to us. It is only a matter of time, and we can be patient. because we know there is no way you could avoid coming to us. And he said to us in Parliament, Sam, your witness, I hope you'll give a good word in relation to that if called to the stand. But he said to me, listen, if we go into the IMF for small money, let me go to the IMF for big money. That is a mindset, a criminal mind. He was prepared to bankrupt the country for political advantage. Never mind that the country would have to pay to rise again, as we are now paying for it. When you hear people in St. Kitts and Nevis saying we never had it so bad, come live with us. We never had it so bad. Come live with us. I challenge him to make public, no names, just give us the figures monthly. How many people lights are disconnected every month? And what is the nature of the arrears? And you begin to see the picture. On Sundays, people's lights are being disconnected in this country. I could show you on my baby now, texts from constituents. Everybody wants a little help now with the electricity bill. They are not alone. Electricity has been one of the real harsh nightmares of our times. But it's not only affecting the residential users, it is affecting a lot of the businesses. Last year, Jaro, with 309 workers, threatened to close down unless the government allow it to get its own generator supply. They were paying $100,000 per month on electricity. That is $1.2 million a year. And they said that their principal said that it was not sustainable. They were prepared to go to China and to stay in St. Kitts. And after a lot of touring and foreign and so on, they eventually decided to let Java go and get their generator set. But Java could do that. Because Java has 300 people and could pull a punch against a government that is planning for an election and want to control bad news. But what about the hairdresser in Kayan who had to close down her saloon? What about the small man who was somewhere in Market Street trying to make things go? No work in the economy. And people, by the sweat of their brow, through industry and some creativity, wanting to make a go. And the cost of doing business become excessively high because the government not ready to deal with alternative energy. And I challenge the Prime Minister in St. Kitts, and I challenge him now to say, why is it none of these things are happening? 7 years we're talking about wind farm, and I should know because they have something up in the sky over in Bellevue, but nothing coming through. Over 7 years we're talking about geothermal, nothing coming through. And you ask yourself, well, what is the hold up? When people are suffering, where is the love and where is the compassion? Where is the map for St. Kitts and Nevis in the heart of our Prime Minister, so that when ordinary folks are suffering, he as a leader stand forward and say, I take this decision on behalf of the poor and needy.
Never happened.
Never happened. Never happened.
No.
Because he doesn't truly care. But once election begins to come, he said, I will do something about that. Last year we had the joke of our lives just before Labor Day when he wanted people, that's 2012. He said, Mother, I never realized the electricity bill so high. You all must get these things on YouTube. He said he didn't know. But people didn't understand. How come the Prime Minister, who likes to say that his constituency is among the poorest, didn't understand when he took the decision in Parliament, you know, to carry up the electricity? And you know why? The Prime Minister's electricity is being paid by the ordinary folks, by me, and the people in my constituency, and those in his constituency. when the Prime Minister bill comes, he sends it to the Treasury to be paid from the contributions, the social services levy, the electricity tariff paid by ordinary folks. And at a time when both businesses and individuals are hurting and the evidence is clear, the Prime Minister continues that anomaly and shows no compassion. Symbolism is important in politics, and I would have said this not going to turn on the national debt, but Mr. in charge of the Treasury, for this month, until we get alternative energy, I will be paying my electricity bill because I am the highest paid officer of government in this country, and I will show a sign of sacrifice. You can't tell me that the lady whose light was cut yesterday and the one whose light was cut today is making a contribution towards the bill of our Prime Minister, and she can't afford to pay hers. Something doesn't look right. And however legal that may look, to me it is an injustice. It is an injustice when you bring to think of it. It tantamount to victimization of the poor. See what it is. Imagine the government boasts about giving poor people laptops, but laptops and the lights tantamount to nothing. It is the inconsistency in the actions of the Prime Minister. And I have described him as a man of contradictions. That is what he is. Contradictions. And we, the good people who love our country, and whom there is a map on our heart which will never allow us to forget St. Kitts and Nevis, we have to do something about it.
That's right.
We have to begin to speak out about it. Even though you are in Canada, your voice will be a powerful new voice on the calling program. Speaking truth to power. Speaking truth on behalf of the suffering masses, because you must hear the cry as I have heard the cry of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. That is part of your duty, your patriotic duty, to help in the redemption of St. Kitts and Nevis. Democracy is very fragile. We have seen how Zimbabwe moved from one state into a failed state. We have seen how Haiti moved. We have seen what has happened in Guyana. So democracy, if not attended to, can easily go. And that is what the fight is in St. Kitts and Nevis. And when you have a man as calculatingly and maliciously intent and remaining in power, I don't know what it is he has to hide or what it is he has to protect. Because I out of power and I still feel good. I boast, but I could say before God and man, my hands are clean. And I challenge Dr. Douglas to say that, but I warn him, keep your hand in your pocket and nobody see. That is the challenge we are dealing with. Final word in relation to the economy I want to make. The economy in St. Kitts and Nevis, these are not my words, have contracted over the last 5 years, according to the IMF. Something about the way the Prime Minister, he doesn't like people to talk the truth. Always you must make it look the reality that is not his. And Dr. Douglas comes and he says, well, we're getting done with the national debt. And this is a model, St. Kitts is a model. And I wonder if our Prime Minister has gone mad. For he's like a man who takes your new car and he cartoon it over the hill. And then he comes and he tells you, boy, I find a good mechanic, you know. Mechanics say you could get back the car, but you got to wait for a number of years. That is what he has done. It is he who took us for the first time in our history into the arms of the IMF for a bailout. Borrowed in July 2011, $228 million. Or else we couldn't pay civil servants. or else we'd have been forced to close down the hospitals. And National Bank couldn't help, and Social Security couldn't help. And he come down to tell us, well, look, he gone down. And look how it has gone down. The Methodist Church had money invested in government bonds because the government is so broke, so bankrupt, can't pay the people invested in the bonds. They say you have to take a haircut. But it's more than a haircut. In the old time days, we used to call them cut day a mama trim. Take off all of your hair and we call it a mama trim. That's what we got. If you see the accounts of National Bank for this year, it is $47 million in bonds National have to write off. That ain't no ordinary cut. That ain't no stylish cut. It is a mama trim. That's what he has given to the bank. So the bank today, its profitability is at an all-time low. I don't know what will be the future of National Bank, because National Bank had always been a government bank, lending principally to the government. And now the government can't pay $47 million in one stroke of it gone. Social Security is to write off, by my analysis, $30 million. So sometime after the election, if Dr. Douglas is there, Social Security contribution will have to go. There is no other way. So in the end, it is we who are paying for this debt restructuring. And Dr. Douglas could take the money from the church. Well, who else he wouldn't take it from? This is a man who introduced a VAT, and on everything now you pay a VAT. If you buy the agricultural produce in a country that ought to be incentivizing agriculture, you sell your tomatoes to rams, that and that. And I said to the Prime Minister, something is wrong with this logic, you know. Because are you forcing the man to go to the public market to buy where it is VAT-free, or you want the farmers to produce and rams and them to deal with the marketing? So don't put no VAT on agricultural products, because you're making it uncompetitive relative to the imported stuff. Prime Minister doesn't answer that. And then, if you had anybody who died recently, ask them whether they pay VAT and the funeral expenses. So this is a Prime Minister not content in taxing us, in VATing us when we are alive. We pay VAT when we are alive. We pay VAT when we live. It is callous. All of them things could happen with a VAT once you're not careful. We have serious unemployment in the country. And again, I don't want to use my own words. So let us take the government-owned data. Because sometimes, you know, when you're trying to hide the truth, when you're trying to tell a lie, something else comes out and people say, God, but why you were telling us yesterday not the same thing? Because in all the rosy picture Dr. Douglas will try to parade before our eyes, we had what we call the PEP program. Well, those of you who follow, before the election some time ago, we had a program called Yes. Elections coming now again, he called this one PEP. And both under Yes and under PEP, you put the young people to cut bush. Essentially, the majority of them. Some of them may get a little training in a hotel, some of them may get a little thing by a hairdresser. But it's really about bush. Wasting the talents of young people. And you wonder, didn't he learn that it is better to teach the man to fish? Give him a skill for carpentry, for air conditioning, for mechanic. And let him go in the world in search, using his industry and his enterprise to lift himself up. Don't dehumanize people when you should be leading them. Because on the yes and on the pay, it is minimum wage. So how will that take the man to the next level? You don't even see changes in attitude because they cut the bush until they're ready to go today. No new skills are being taught. But it is an election. And you see the irony. Where the leader wants 5 more years, but he offers the young unemployed 3 to 6 months work. You understand the nature of the man? You understand why then when a leader gets up in parliament and he said, them a hag they be. This is political hogwash he's teaching out and dishing out to people. It shows a leader without concern and compassion who believes that he is a trickster, that he can fool people who are in need. It's a cavalier approach that should only be something of the past, when the white massa would have done that to us. But pity us when our leader thinks same old can work. What happened to our pride? What happened to dignity? What happened to all those calls we made years ago? Set us free, make us independent, and we complain about massa when we have new massa, black man with white heart, described in the book. And that is what we have to end in our country, and we have to speak out about it. The other day the IMF says that the growth fell. First they were saying it was going to contract by 0.9%. They then revised it to 1.3%. They said if you're lucky you might get growth of 2%. Prime Minister not interested in those truths. He's interested in hiding it. He is interested in getting on to power, not about advancing the life. Nothing is wrong really in having power, but power must be used for some good. Power must be used for advancing the people and advancing the country, so that the politics then become a contest of ideas of who can give the country the better offering for its development, for its democracy. Dr. Douglas don't want that kind of debate. He wants entertainment. He wants to bring in all kind of artists and music and fool ordinary people whose job it is to educate and to empower and to give something more than a song of sixpence we deserve in the land of our birth. We deserve something better, and our leader not giving us that. So the question then, is there any alternative? Yes, there is. The alternative comes when we agree that we can work together. God is our maker and he never made no junk. All of us are citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis, and could we in this moment of crisis rise to the occasion? Could we do that? Could we do that? Could we say, God first, but after God is this country which I love, man. Party after country. I have a country to build, a people to mold. I want fairness and equity for those in my land. That is what we are asking people to do. While we are fighting this long time fight about who is PAM, who is Labour, who is CCM, who is NRP, and who not RPP. With our interests, they are coming into our country and they are going with the best of our resources. They have taken over Port Zante. They have taken over the Southeast Peninsula. When last do you hear them rise to the occasion and say, this project is coming from the ordinary man and woman of St. Kitts and Nevis? You are not hearing no salute, no praise for the ordinary sons and daughters in the land of our birth. And so we are moving steadily along, but we are not marching with progress. We will know when we have marched with progress, when management and ownership resides in the hands of the Kiddishan and the Nivishan in the land of our birth. Management and ownership if we ain't know nothing, what it is we dance about. We're not managing anything. It is the same people coming from abroad knocking us about. And sometimes we're doing it to ourselves when we become so blinded by politics that if she a palm, nothing for she. If she a labor, nothing good for she. We have to bring an end to that. And sometimes only once we have an occasion to make history. We must never let the moment pass. I believe the circumstances are right now in St. Kitts and Nevis that we can make history for our country. We can unite it. Because if we don't break the trend of this PAM and Labour, PAM do bad, Labour go into the same bad. But that's not right. We have to break the cycle once and for all. And the journey in which I am embarked with Sam Condor, with Sean Richards, with Eugene Hamilton, with Mark Brantley, with Vance Emery, and whomsoever will, is to break the cycle and say once and for all, we can work together for the benefit of our country. Country first! Country first! In the language of our coat of arms, country above ourselves. Because when we build a strong, proud country, we build it for all of us. When cost of living got down because we invested in agriculture, we have programs of agricultural substitution, then we know all of us get cheaper goods. We know we build a stronger fabric for those who are involved in agro-processing. We know that we create new wealth, new energy in the land of our birth. We can do that as a people. With God's grace, we can. And that is why we say God first. But our country after, man. United, we can achieve wonders. All this talk about electoral reform, and I'm going to end in 2 minutes, somebody to serve in 2 minutes come. All this talk about electoral reform, how you will get it done unless you have the principal political actors, be the Labour in Sam and Tim, be the those from Nevis and those from Ham, coming to sit together and to say, this is what we must agree. The framework. In Barbados, they have election too. In Jamaica, they have elections too. But you never hear after all them elections so many things ending up in court. And the bitterness that is there. Because they have a framework which says, on the basis of A, B, and C, objective criteria, the boundaries will change. And Nevisians are citizens too. So they have equal a right to share in whatever there is in the state, and there is no favor. Those are some of the principles upon which we are trying to build a new Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. And I invite you to lend support to that, to lend support to a new St. Kitts and Nevis, because I believe united we can. We can give the people of St. Kitts and Nevis one more chance to a better way of life, better democracy, and better development. May God bless all of us from St. Kitts and Nevis. May God bless you all.